Reloop Buddy versus the new Hercules DJControl Mix. Even though the Reloop Buddy is a little bit old, I still think it's a great controller to compare with the Hercules. And one main reason is there are some of the few controllers that have a built-in iPad stand. So I'm going to show you the one on the Reloop Buddy first. To use the stand, what you're going to do is just put it in this slot back here, and it leans back like that. And this iPad stand is one of the best. Unless you have like a big outer box case, then it's going to hold your iPad really well. You could smack it, you could move it around, you could be DJing with the screen, which you're going to do, and you'll be able to DJ without worrying about it falling. Now, I was really excited that the Hercules controller had a built-in stand, but the way it works is this controller comes with a case, which is a really cool feature. So this is the controller, and then it comes with this cover. It's a really good hard plastic cover with some grips on the bottom, and it snaps in over it like that. And now it's safe. You can throw it in a bag and you're good. You don't have to worry about your controller getting damaged. And trust me, I've damaged a lot of controllers by throwing them into bags. So to use the iPad stand, you flip it over and then it sits in here. And again, the iPad stand was one of the main reasons why I just had to purchase this controller. But watch, the same iPad with the same slim case on the Reloop Buddy, and it's not touching the back. The same exact iPad is going to go into this stand. So how this stand works is the case has this little rubber piece on the back, and then your iPad sits between that rubber piece and the actual controller itself. So I'm going to put the same iPad into it. And there you go. It doesn't stay very well. It does stay, but once you start DJing and pushing stuff, it will fall if you have any type of case on it. If you don't have a case, here's an old iPad that I dropped in my pool. So it doesn't work, but there's no case on it. So with no case, it stays on better, but still it starts to lift up the controller. In the Reloop Buddy, it's in there really good, even if you have a decent case on it. And another thing is if you're using it like this, then like I said, those little grips on the bottom, they're pretty good, but it still is going to slide a lot. Still going to slide a lot if you're using the case as the stand. With the Reloop Buddy, it has the rubber stoppers. Or if you use the Hercules controller without the case, then it stays there pretty good. It has this rubber on the bottom. It still does slide around a little bit, so I'm pushing these both at about the same length. The Hercules controller does slide a little bit. It does have the rubber, but it does slide a little bit. So when I'm using this controller, I'm still going to have to bring my own iPad stand in order to use it, because I don't want my iPad falling over. It's kind of embarrassing when you're DJing and your whole iPad falls over. So the Reloop Buddy has a much better stand. But let's get to some other stuff why I think the Hercules controller is better. First one is this controller has a built-in battery. So the controller has a battery. It comes with a charger. You could charge it. But in my experience, I have found that the battery has lasted a really long time. I still haven't charged it since I opened the box, and it was super cool to be able to just open the box and instantly connect to your controller. So this controller is on completely wireless. There is no wires. You could bring it to the beach, bring it to the pool, start DJing instantly. But there is a downside. You're going to have to get your audio out of your iPad and not the controller. That's the biggest difference. Reloop Buddy has a built-in sound card. Hercules does not. So to get our audio out of the Hercules controller, you're probably going to need one of these because most iPads do not have a built-in audio jack. So this gives you an audio jack with the charge port, USB-C, and then you could charge it. So put it in like that, and then you could connect your audio if you just want to DJ like that. But it also comes with a headphone splitter cable. So now we have one adapter, two adapters, just to get our audio and use the headphones. And now this is kind of risky because if those are not the best quality adapters, or they're not in good, or they start to wear out, it could affect your audio quality, which is very important when you're DJing. So to connect this Hercules controller, what you're going to do is there's an on-off switch here. You just turn it on, and they actually did an update specifically for this controller. So what we're going to do is in our software, we're going to press the middle button here. And if you are in modes, there's a controller button right here, and you could press that and connect a Bluetooth controller. So now it's connected. The easiest controller to connect. Only downside is those adapters that you're going to have to use. This controller is connected like that. With the Reloop Buddy, you are going to need wires. So first you're going to need a way to plug a USB-A into your USB-C. So you're going to need one of these. I recommend getting one with HDMI so you could use video mode. So now we plug this into here, and then we are going to plug it in to our iPad directly. So now it's connected, and you see that it's connected. And then the good thing about this is we have Pro Audio connections. So we could use these audio connections for our audio. And then for our headphones, we have a headphone cable right here. So you don't need all those adapters. And it's definitely a more professional and stable way of DJing if you're going to do DJ gigs. So the biggest difference is Bluetooth versus not Bluetooth. I wish they made it like some other new controllers where you could use Bluetooth or hardwired so you could choose. But this controller is Bluetooth only. Next, let's talk about another big change, another big difference, and that is going to be these pads. So they both have 8 performance pads. They both work pretty well. Nice rubbery, not too loud when you press them. But the biggest difference is these are color coded. So you can see that it has blue, red, and DJ Pro has a really cool feature that you could actually change these colors. So a little hard to see with the glare, but I'm going to change this yellow one into like a white, into like a red. And you can actually see it appear on the controller, which is super cool. With the Hercules controller, they do light up. So if you have a cue point selected and you press it, they light up so you know you have cue points, but there is no way to change the color. There's no RGB lights, just regular lights. So I love the color-coded cue points, and I think they could have put that into the Hercules controller, but for some reason they didn't. And these controllers are about the same size. The Reloop Buddy is like this much, maybe like like this much bigger, maybe like an inch or two bigger, which isn't the biggest deal. So the Hercules one is a little bit more compact, and it is definitely slimmer. Next, let's talk about the mixer sections, the sliders, and the faders. So the volume sliders on the Hercules and on the Reloop, they both feel the same amount of resistance, but with the Reloop Buddy, you do get a longer throw, so you could be more precise. The Hercules one is a little bit smaller, but it does make up for that by having much longer BPM sliders. So the longer the BPM sliders are, the more precise you could be for doing manual beat matching. And these ones there's a good amount of resistance, and there's a good catch in the middle so you know when you're back at the middle. And these are super long for the size of the controller. It takes up like maybe like 40 or 30% of the controller. So the BPM sliders are much bigger, and they're in a spot where you'd expect BPM sliders to be, which is up over here. With the Reloop Buddy, they had to change some stuff around from traditional controllers because of the iPad stand. So these BPM sliders are down here, and they are about half the size. But also keep in mind the actual size of these sliders are bigger. Again, Crossfader is pretty much a lot smaller than the Reloop Buddy, and I think the Reloop Buddy feels a little smoother, but they both work really well. Another big thing is the mixer section. And these are both some of the first controllers to have Neural Mix built in. So the first thing that you're going to notice is the Hercules controller has more mixer knobs. So the Reloop Buddy only has 3 mixer knobs, and they did that because they put in this really cool paddle shift feature that the Hercules doesn't have. But let's continue with the mixer. So in the Reloop Buddy, you have a filter, or that could be your lows. You could map it, but it's either the filter or the drums in Neural Mix. And then you have lows and highs. No mids, which is kind of weird. Most controllers have lows, mids, and highs. With the Hercules controller, we get a dedicated filter, which is actually decently bigger than the other ones, so it looks a little bit different because the filter usually looks a little bit different than the other knobs. And then we have 3 bands, lows, mids, and highs. So we get one more mixer knob, which is pretty important and pretty cool. So now let's talk about Neural Mix. I think we could see that. So look at the mixer section on the iPad. So I am just going to, so on the Reloop controller, right now we're controlling regular EQs, just like that. And then if we wanted to control Neural Mix, we press Shift and then we press these headphone buttons, and now we have switched to Neural Mix. So drums, harmonics, and bass like that. I don't really like how they did that with the Reloop controller. It's a little bit harder to switch from regular mixing to Neural Mix. And with the Hercules, they did such a great job of integrating Neural Mix. So there's this really cool button. So you turn it off, you're doing regular mixing. And look at the EQ section. As soon as you press it, it changes the Neural Mix. So you can instantly go to Neural Mix without having to press Shift, which is really cool and makes it much easier to use. Next, let's talk about effects. So like I said, the Reloop Buddy has these amazing paddle shifters. So you can push it down and it's like spring-loaded, and then it'll go back up. This is if you just want to put an effect on for like a little bit if you're doing scratching or something. But if you want to set like an echo out, you could flip it up and then the effect stays on. So that has the paddle shifters. The Hercules controller doesn't have effects unless you're using the pads. So if we switch to effects here, then we could use instant effects. But I like using the manual effects a lot better, and I think the pads are better. So if you like doing battle mixing or scratching and stuff like that, you may want the Reloop Buddy. Next is going to be the jog wheels. So the jog wheels on the Reloop Buddy are touch activated. So if you do the top, they're going to scratch. But if you do the side while it's playing, it's going to either speed it up or slow it down. With the Hercules controller, you have the same thing. And these are actually touch-activated jog wheels, which is a big upgrade from the regular Hercules Control Mix, which weren't. You had to press a button to switch to vinyl mode. So overall, if you want to have a more professional controller and you plan on doing professional gigs, maybe you're only getting one controller and want to use it for practicing and having fun and doing gigs, I would still go with the Reloop Buddy because it has the built-in sound card and a lot more professional features. If you have a professional bigger controller, maybe like a Flex 4 or a bigger main controller, and you want to just have something cool for when you're DJing at the park or at your house or something to just mess around with, then I would go with the Hercules. I would go with the Hercules because it's the easiest to get to start, easiest to connect. You don't need all these wires, and it's a lot of fun. And I will leave a link for both of these controllers down below, and you can decide for yourself.